Welcome to this explainer. When we think of boating or taking a cruise with our family, we immediately picture sunshine, laughter, and just creating those perfect holiday memories, right? But today we're diving into a deeply sobering reality. When basic safety rules get tossed overboard, that picture-perfect vacation can turn into an absolute nightmare in an instant. We're going to break down the hard, heartbreaking lessons from the recent Jabalpur tragedy and figure out exactly what we need to do to keep our families safe out on the water. The reality of the Jabalpur cruise tragedy is, well, it's just devastating. It's an image that's been burned into the minds of so many of us. A mother, in what was literally her desperate final act of love, drowned while holding her 4-year-old child tight to her chest. When that story went viral, it absolutely shook people to their core. And I know it's incredibly tough to talk about, but we really have to look at this not just as some freak accident, but as a massive wake-up call. It's a crucial warning for anyone who might take water safety lightly during a weekend getaway.
Because here's the thing about a tragedy of this scale. It almost never comes down to just one tiny mistake. It's usually a whole domino effect of systemic failures. When investigators looked into the Bargi Dam cruise, they found a complete mechanical breakdown. Reports actually showed that both of the boat's engines had seized up. So we're not just talking about a sudden storm. This was a total operational collapse. Now, the state government didn't just brush this under the rug. They immediately ordered a 3-month judicial inquiry led by Justice Sanjay Dwivedi to figure out how on earth these failures were allowed to happen. But while the authorities do their thing to investigate the negligence, it really leaves us with a huge question about our own personal accountability.
Which brings us right to the heart of the matter. How can you keep your family safe on the water? Look, we can't control systemic failures. We can't control what happens in the engine room. But our personal preparedness, that is 100% in our hands. We absolutely cannot just blindly trust the operators, especially, and I mean especially, when we have our kids with us. We've got to flip our mindset from being just passive tourists kicking back to being active protectors. So what are the absolute non-negotiable rules? Let's get into the foolproof protocol. Okay, before you even let your family step 1 foot onto a dock, you need to run through these 3 simple steps. Think of it like a pilot's pre-flight checklist. Step 1, check the weather yourself. Do not just take the ticket vendor's word for it. Step 2, take a good, hard look at the boat. If it looks packed like a can of sardines, it's overloaded. Step 3, life jackets for everyone. Period. No exceptions. Let's actually break down why each of these isn't just a suggestion, but a matter of life and death. And let's start with the one rule people seem to break the most. There is this incredibly dangerous myth floating around that we don't need life jackets if we're just hopping on a local or small boat. We've all thought it, right? Oh, it's just a quick 5-minute ride across a calm lake. The locals do it every single day without gear. It'll be fine. But here is the harsh reality. Accidents do not wait for a massive ocean liner in the middle of a hurricane. They happen unexpectedly, instantly, without any warning at all. So whether you're a strong swimmer or a kid seeing the lake for the very first time, strapping on that life jacket is totally non-negotiable. The Jabalpur tragedy is a brutal reminder that the water genuinely does not care if you're just on a quick local boat ride. All right, let's move to step 2, capacity. The actual physics of why an overloaded boat is basically a ticking time bomb are pretty straightforward. When you pack too much weight onto a boat, you completely destroy its balance. See, a boat is designed to displace a very specific amount of water, so it stays perfectly stable. When you try to squeeze in just a few more relatives for that group selfie, the center of gravity drastically shifts. That shoots the risk of tipping over right through the roof. And the scariest part? An overloaded, unbalanced boat makes it nearly impossible for the captain to steer or react to a sudden wave. If the engine gives out, exactly like it did in Jabalpur, that overloaded boat becomes literally unmanageable. And that brings us to what is arguably the most critical behavioral rule when you're actually on board. Keep your children in your sight at all times. I know, it sounds super obvious, right? But picture being our vacation. You're snapping photos, you're marveling at the scenery, maybe catching up with family. It is so easy to get distracted for just a second. Kids are curious by nature. They want to wander, they want to peek over the edge to look at the fish. All it takes is a sudden jolt, a slippery deck, and they can fall in the blink of an eye. You have got to maintain visual contact and stay close to your kids. Your own vigilance is literally their best safety mechanism.
Now remember, step 1 from our checklist, checking the weather. Here is exactly why you cannot skip this. Sudden weather changes are a primary cause of water accidents. You might show up at the dock, the sun is shining, skies are blue, but wind patterns on open water, especially on massive dams and lakes, can shift violently and without warning. High winds can flip smaller or overloaded boats like bath toys. So, when you check the forecast before heading out, you aren't just looking to see if you need an umbrella. You need to look for wind advisories and storm warnings. If the weather looks even slightly iffy, you cancel the trip. Honestly, it is never, ever worth the risk. So, as we pull all these pieces together, it really comes down to a clear choice. On one side, you have negligence for the sake of temporary fun. Brushing the rules aside because they feel like a hassle or you don't want to kill the vacation vibe. But on the flip side, we have the whole point of this explainer, finding true enjoyment through safe travel. Think about it. You can't genuinely relax and have a blast with your family if you're subconsciously ignoring serious risks. True peace of mind, the kind that lets you actually enjoy the moment, only happens when you know you've done everything in your power to protect the people you love.
It all really boils down to this one question. Is a single moment of negligence really worth risking your family's safety? The heartbreaking loss of that mother and her young child in Jabalpur gives us a resounding, devastating no. Vacations are meant to be cherished, not mourned. So please, take the extra 5 minutes, check the weather forecast, take a hard look at the boat, make sure those life jackets are securely fastened, and hold your kids close. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Stay vigilant out there, stay strict about your safety rules, and look after each other.